This game preview is sponsored by Crafton, publishers of Redacted. As you no doubt know, I love roguelike games. I play almost every one that comes out. For better or worse, I'm a bit addicted to the genre. That's why when Striking Distance Studios reached out about their upcoming game Redacted, I was eager to check it out. As with all sponsored videos here on the channel, this is not a review. Our goal here is to introduce you to the game, get you familiar with the systems, and leave you with enough knowledge about Redacted so you can determine if it's worth checking out. With that said, let's dive in. So what is Redacted? Well, if you couldn't tell, it's an action-packed roguelike where you take control of a prison guard. Your goal is simple: reach the lone escape pod left at the outpost and cut your way through all manner of deadly and disgusting monstrosities on your way to the exit. Along the way, you'll also have to contend with a number of rivals, prisoners that haven't been touched by the outbreak, who add another layer to the chaos. In true roguelike fashion, your first run will be as bare bones as it gets. You'll have a stun baton and a hand cannon, and most likely you won't make it past the first biome, but that's the point. Redacted does take the rogue elements seriously, and as you collect resources, you can use them to unlock permanent buffs that make your next journey less perilous. Redacted's prison is made up of 4 distinct biomes, and each is home to a unique array of monsters. There are no copy and paste enemies here, and each biome will challenge your approach. What works in Convict Cage Match, the first biome, might not work in Avionic Anarchy, the 4th biome, and that harkens back to the first generation of roguelikes that really understood that dying was part of the learning process. Redacted understands this really well. As someone that's clocked more hours with this genre than I care to admit, I was expecting to fly through my first run with little to no issue, but that simply didn't happen. Now, 25 plus runs later, I am consistently getting to the end, and things that really weren't clicking early on are seamless because of the game's rogue elements. So let's break that down. For those that might not dabble in this genre, a roguelike usually starts out incredibly hard and gets easier the more runs you endure. Along the way, you're scooping up resources, and those resources can be invested into a number of systems, and Redacted has a lot of interconnected systems. During each run, you'll have the chance to scoop up key codes. These are used at the Riot Response Terminal to unlock new melee and ranged weapons. It looks like a small offering at first, but as you unlock weapons, more become visible, with a dozen total accessible throughout the game. Each weapon is truly unique, and while I have no doubt players will gravitate to one that matches their playstyle, there are some surprising options here, like the Mortar Backpack, which ended up being one of my favorite weapons I have ever used in a roguelike. There's really nothing better than launching explosives at your enemies from a distance, and once you work in a few upgrades, it's unstoppable. What's also fun is leaning into either a melee or ranged build. Both are viable, and I say that as someone that actively avoids melee in most games. I even challenged myself to use the Barman Shankers at one point, and couldn't believe how far I got in that run. Now, besides your weapons, you'll also be able to unlock new armor sets at the Gear Locker. Each is tailored to provide a specific bonus, like damage reduction in a certain biome, the ability to find more of a specific type of experiment during a run, or even armor that gives you Last Caress, the game's cheat death mechanic. Each armor can also be upgraded, stacking multiple bonuses together, but only after you've completed a certain prerequisite wearing that armor, and only after you have the required security ID's resource. Gear and weapons make up the backbone of the Redacted combat experience. But wait, there's more. The Crisis Management Terminal allows you to unlock and then equip a wide array of skills, each of which can be upgraded, providing you with even more passive and sometimes active bonuses. To start, things are simple, and you'll really only be able to purchase some flat bonuses, but as you unlock new pages and really rake in the contraband, the resource used for this system, you'll be able to unlock things like an extra dash or a baseline Last Caress, which, as you can imagine, is a big deal. If you're getting system fatigue, just hang with me, because while there are a lot of interconnected systems, they're rolled out to you in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming. Your first handful of runs might be a train wreck, but you'll learn what upgrades or weapons you want to pursue, and Redacted puts that control in your hand throughout each run. See, after you clear a room, you'll have to make a choice which door to step through. Each door will lead you to a different reward at the end of that next room, but you have to play it out in your head. Do you want an experiment that will provide you with a powerful buff in that moment during that run? Or do you want some sort of currency that you can take back to the starting barracks and use to unlock a more powerful weapon or an upgrade that can take you even further in the next run? It's a balancing act, and while your options are tied to RNG, the choice you make is not. So one way or another, you do have direct control of your destiny. Where things get really interesting is with the introduction of rivals. You are not alone in your quest to try and escape the prison, and slowly, over the course of your first 10 to 15 runs, you'll be introduced to prisoners that are also trying to claim that last drop pod. The team really went out of their way to make these characters truly zany, and while all of them are clearly unstable, they add a new dynamic to the action. Redacted takes a very traditional approach to roguelikes and overlays something completely new, a race mechanic. It's you against the outbreak of deadly baddies, but it's also you against your rivals in a race to reach the end of the prison. This pushes the pace of the game in a way most other roguelikes don't, because you can't waste time. Every second you're standing around, your rivals are getting one step closer to the escape pod, and that puts pressure on you to constantly keep moving. Even if you clear all 4 biomes and they get to the escape pod first, you lose, which really pours some salt in the wound. To make this even more interesting and engaging, Redacted features a trap system. On one hand, you can use your own traps to slow, stop, damage, or weaken your rivals. This can help ensure that you remain ahead of the pack during your run, or potentially weaken your rivals before they confront you in a mini-boss style encounter. However, that's a two-way street, and your rival can randomly booby-trap any room during your run, adding a challenging affix to what you have to deal with. There's a great number of these, but one of my favorites was Living in Darkness, which essentially turns the lights off, forcing you to fight with just a flashlight. It's an extra layer of challenge that really keeps each run interesting, and sometimes those affixes can catch you sleeping. When a rival becomes fed up with your antics and you're physically close together in the race, there's a chance you'll have to confront them in a battle. Each rival brings different weapons to the table, but they fight more like a player and less like a random dungeon minion. They're also incredibly aggressive, but luckily, it's a timed encounter, so if you're outmatched, you can simply avoid fighting them until the timer runs out. However, if you defeat a rival, you'll get a special currency that's essential for unlocking more skill pages at the Crisis Management Terminal, so again, it's all about seeing the big picture. Rivals are overly challenging by design because once you reach Zone 2, the sludge tunnels, you'll run across special computer rooms where you can access dossier files on those rivals. Not only does this give you information on their background, lore and stuff, but each part of their redacted file you uncover debuffs them, making fighting that specific rival easier. To make things even better, you can upgrade the power of your traps back at your barracks, increasing the damage or duration of your various traps. This, of course, requires a different resource, electronics, so, like I've been saying, everything is interconnected. The final real piece to the puzzle, outside of the combat of course, is the terminal power supply, which is yet another upgrade system that you can use to increase your chance of success during a run. This uses the same electronics currency I just mentioned, but again, you have to make a choice, because investing in these options gives you more choice and flexibility between biomes, allowing you to do things like change up your armor amongst other things. I specifically found the first aid stations upgrade a huge reason for my long-term success in the game, which you can unlock at this terminal. There's one last thing we really need to dive into, and it's easily the most important aspect of Redacted, the combat. Like I've mentioned, the game is a traditional roguelike in a lot of ways. After you clear each floor, you'll receive a reward, and while a number of those are currencies, a good number of the rewards you get are experiments. These come in all shapes and sizes and add substantial elemental effects to your various abilities. Experiments can augment your standard ranged and melee attacks, but they can also add a pulsing effect around your character, or add variance to your kick attack, and even change up the way that you dash and dash attack. Because you have so many tools at your disposal, upgrades run the gamut, and depending on the type of build you're going for, you can really tailor a loadout that fits your playstyle. Two of the most important upgrades are schematics and experiment boosters. Schematics fundamentally change the way your weapons work. For example, there's a schematic that turns the assault rifle from a 3-shot burst weapon to fully automatic. That is substantial, and schematics across the board have that transformative effect on all weapons. Boosters are a bit different in that they, well, boost or upgrade an already existing experiment. Say you picked up something really strong early on. Well, a booster gives you the option to continue improving that experiment, making it even more potent. The bottom line is this: some runs the RNG gods are not going to favor you, and that's a hallmark of any roguelike game. But when the stars align and luck is on your side, you'll end up with that glorious run that helps catapult your progression miles ahead. Now, the only thing left standing in our way are the enemies themselves, and let me tell you guys, I really enjoyed what Redacted throws at us. Like I mentioned, each biome has its own array of grotesque monsters to defeat, and each has a singular move that you need to contend with. But when 5 or 6 enemies are stacked up, that challenge intensifies. You'll no doubt have your least favorite enemies in each biome. I certainly did myself, but you'll learn to adapt and overcome. All roads lead to the game's end biome bosses, and while I won't reveal anything past the first biome boss, the Berserker, expect these fights to truly ramp up in difficulty. The Berserker that you see on the screen now is a challenging fight at the end of Biome 1, but you learn to deal with his limited moveset quick enough. That really changes in Zones 2 and beyond, and the end boss is, just forget about it, it is a wild encounter. My friends, if you like roguelike games and you're in the market for a new experience, you now have all the information you need about Redacted. It is a fast-paced, white-knuckle action game with incredibly high replayability and really snappy combat. The game goes live on October 31st, 2024 for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, and you can pick it up for around $23. Thanks again to Striking Distance Studios for sponsoring this video. If you appreciate previews like this and you want more videos showcasing new and upcoming games, be sure to drop us a like and consider subscribing for more in your feed. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.